Hello everyone, welcome to this video by DataSense. So in this video, I'm going to talk you through a very important concept and which people generally don't know is Python virtual environment. So thing is that we start coding in Python, right, without realizing, knowing that like a lot of people, like I have seen people with even good experience, right? They don't have clarity on what is virtual environment, how does it work, and especially if you because what happens when you are practicing Python, let's say in a course, for example, you're doing any course, there the Python that you do, it is totally different from the Python that you do uh, for any work, right? For example, let's say you're developing any application, you are using Python for any data analytics project, right? There you talk about the concept of virtual environment, which is very, very important. Okay, before coding, you need to set up your virtual environment, you need to set up your environment variables, like dependency variables, requirement files, those things you need to set up. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about what is virtual environment and how to create that. Okay, and the further topics I will cover them in the future videos as well. Okay, so let's, without like wasting much time, let's start discussing about this particular topic. Now today is a Sunday, right? I want to cook, I want to eat something good. So let's say I want to cook something. So what I will do, I'll go to my kitchen. For example, let's say this is my kitchen. Okay, so my kitchen has two stoves where I can cook food. So let's say this is the stove 1 which is present here, and this is the stove 2 which is present here. Now what will happen is that this is my stove and here is my list of like there's a bucket generally in our kitchen, right, where we have all the ingredients. So let's say this is that place where I have ingredients stored present, right? I take, whenever I have to cook something, what I do, I come here, I take, there are few items present, I take the item from there and I take there to cook it. So let's say I just don't want to eat one thing, I want to cook two dishes today because I'm in a very good mood. So the first dish that I'm going to cook on my stove 1, let's say that is butter chicken. Okay, and on stove 2 I want to cook masala dosa, for example. Okay, now to cook these things there will be different ingredients, for example, right? So let's list down what all possible ingredients could be. I mean, see, I'm not a professional cook, so I don't know everything, but at least I know some of the things that are included. So of course you need a chicken here, right? Without chicken it's not possible. After chicken, for example, you will need some type of masalas. Let's say you want your butter chicken to be little sweet and masala dosa to be little so you want this to be little sweet, okay, because butter chicken is generally sweet, and masala dosa you want it to be little spicy. So what you will do there, let's say you have a chili powder. So chili powder 1 is present there, which is which is less spicy. And here in the masala dosa section, for example, so let's first list down. Uh, so this is what chili powder. Okay, let's say then there is, for example, garam masala. Okay, and then there is butter, of course. Okay, and let's say there are multiple other items as well. And now let us write the ingredients for masala dosa. So what it will be, it will be batter, that comes for this. Then there will be, for example, curry leaves. Okay, and let's say because we want it to be spicy, so I'm keeping C2, which is spicy, uh, chili powder. Okay, and then there are multiple items. Now I have plates. For example, let us say these are there 10 ingredients. There are 10 ingredients, so there are total 20 ingredients which are present on my shelf. Okay, so 20 ingredients which are present, something. Okay, so similarly, like for example, this is C1, let's say this is C1 and this is C2. Okay, now while cooking, right, you every time you will come from here to here. So what, how do you cook? You come from here to here, you take the ingredient and you put it here and you start cooking, right? So same with this, you come from here to here, you pick the ingredient and you go back here. So what you are doing here, you have a single place where all your ingredients are present, and you are picking items from there. Now in general scenario it is fine, but what if there can be confusion here? So for example, in the case of C1 and C2, you just saw that the label says, for example, the bottle for it looks like something this. So let us say this is your bottle for chili powder. Okay, now in this bottle it is not explicitly mentioned that which one is less spicy, which one is more spicy. It is just that inside the content of that particular spice is different, but it is not explicitly mentioned on the top. Okay, now what will happen, let us say, so this particular thing is present here. Now when you are picking, when you're cooking sweet, let's say when you're cooking butter chicken, you might end up picking the wrong one. You might end up picking the spicy chili powder and you can put it there. Or when you're cooking, for example, masala dosa, you might end up picking the sweet, the less spicy chili powder, and you might end up putting here. So what is happening? Just because all these items are present on single shelf and there is no categorization between what item belong to S2, what item belong to S1, you might end up confusing and putting the wrong ingredients in the wrong dish. And so the present of these ingredients might affect your dish S2, and the presence of these ingredients might affect the cooking of S1. So what I mean to say, for example, let us say the ingredients which belong to butter chicken are in red. So for example, let us say I1, okay, I2, I3, I4, and so on up to I10 are there. And let us say the ingredients which are belonging to masala dosa, they are in green. So I1, I2, I3, I4, and up to I10. Now because everything is present in the same bucket only, you might end up picking the wrong ingredient. You might end up picking the ingredient green for S1 and ingredient red for S2, right? Because there is no categorization. Nothing is stopping you from picking I1 for this particular thing. There comes the concept of virtual environment. So what you can do, rather, you can create a partition here inside this, that okay, I have created a partition. I have taken the ingredients for butter chicken and placed them inside this particular area, and ingredients for my masala dosa are present in this only. Okay, so the presence of this does not impact this, the presence of this does not impact this. Okay, and this is what will happen when you will eventually start cooking butter chicken. You will only pick from these 10, and when you cook masala dosa, you will only cook you will only pick ingredients from these 10. So as I mentioned, this is the concept of virtual environment when you are working on any project, right? So this is a kind of a project 1, project 2. Okay, each project has some certain requirements, dependencies, libraries that need to be installed. Okay, so you want them to be installed in in a virtual environment which contains the requirement only for that particular project. So I will speak about more like in few seconds from now, but just understand the concept of virtual environment, that so that the requirements, ingredients, dependencies of one project, so that they do not impact the dependencies of other project, because in that case the project might get affected. Okay, so now let's discuss about this thing in more detail. So to begin with, in Python, there are two types of environment. Always remember, one is a global environment, okay, and other is a virtual environment. So what is global environment? It means that any library, when you do pip install, right? Remember, if you do like pip install anything, by default, it goes into global environment, okay? And the other one is a virtual environment, as I just spoke, and we will discuss that in the coming video. So virtual environment. So now how do you, if you go to your any program, let's say you open your terminal, or let's say you open your VS Code, or you go to anything, if you install anything, by default it goes into global environment. And if you specify for a particular thing, it will go into virtual environment. So what is happening here is that this is your global environment. Let's say this is at the top. Okay, now anything that is installed here, for example, let us say you are using an application called as Flask. Okay, this is Flask. Okay, now Flask will have multiple versions. Okay, and inside, so this is your global environment, this is your global. Now inside the global, there will be multiple virtual environments, like small virtual environments. which will be running. Now what happens, for example, for Flask in general, let us say you have installed a Flask version of 2.0 and you have multiple projects, project 1, project 2, project 3, project 4. Okay, now your project 1 and 2 require Flask 2.0 only. Okay, so they will run perfectly. But what if your project 3 and 4, they require Flask 1, because Flask 2 has some advanced features, and the way you coded program 3 and 4, if you see Flask 2.0, your code will break down. Okay, so this will not work with 2.0. Okay, so if you have installed anything globally, that can impact your individual projects if there is an issue with the versions. Okay, and to take care of those versions, we do this virtual environment concept. So let us try to understand this thing in little bit more detail. So let us discuss this concept in more, try to understand visually even more. For example, this is my my system. Okay, and this is my global environment. Okay, global means, so what does global means? It means it can be accessed anywhere. Global environment. Now what will happen, for example, I have, as we discussed, project A. First of all, project A is there. Okay, and second is project B. So what will be happening, let's say for both project I need an application, as I mentioned, Flask. Flask is an application which helps in creating, it's a front-end application. Okay, now it can have various versions. So for project A, let's say this is project A, this is project B. For project A, I need, what is my requirement? I need Flask 1.0 because it requires an older version of Flask. It is not compatible with a newer version of Flask. Okay, so what I will do, I'll install this particular thing and I will do my project. I'll create my Python code and I'll run my whole front end. I'll get it. Okay, now what happens after doing this? So by default, globally, my Flask version is 1.0. Now I have to take up the next project, that is project B. So now to do this, I will have to upgrade this Flask, right? So I will upgrade this Flask to Flask 2.0. Okay, because with Flask 1.0, project B will not work. So what will happen globally, Flask will be updated to 2.0 and I'll create this particular project for project B as well, which is based on Flask 2. Okay, so this is project A, this is project B. Now, so first I ran this, it worked, then I ran this worked. Now if I run project A again, it will throw me an error. Why will it throw you an error? Because this was supposed to work with Flask 1.0, not with Flask 2.0. So what you will have to do, you will have to degrade, you'll have to degrade this to further Flask 1.0. Okay, and but when you degrade it to 1.0, you cannot run project B, correct? So with the same environment variable, you cannot run both the projects simultaneously in your systems. Okay, and that is the place where you need the concept of virtual environment. So what you will be eventually doing is that you will create a boundary between these two. Okay, and you'll basically break your system, divide your segment into two parts. In this particular part, you will install Flask 1.0. Okay, and here you will install Flask 2.0. Doesn't matter what is present globally. Globally, it can be 3.0 as well. It does not matter. Okay, so now whenever you run this particular project code, it will assign itself to Flask 1.0 and it will not throw any error. And when you will run with Flask 2.0, it will attach it with this one, it will not throw any error. Okay, so let us try to summarize this particular project. This particular whole thing is that you have, as I discussed, this is your global environment. Okay, this is my global environment. Now this can have lot of dependencies. Now inside this I have different, so let us say this is my different projects which are present inside this. Okay, so globally, let's say there is an application Flask which was just, let's say 2.0. Now inside I can have multiple projects. I can have project A, I can have project B, I can have project C. Okay, this is my computer. I can have project D, and similarly there can be so many projects. Now for each there is a different version of Flask. Here it is 1.0, here it is 2.0, here might be 3.1, here might be 4.2. Okay, so whenever you create any project, you have to create a virtual environment and install all the dependencies. Okay, dependencies, or you can say libraries, whatever you install in that particular folder only, so that whenever you open this, run this, it does not impact project B, project C, or any other project. So I hope this explanation, the concept of global and virtual environment is clear to you. Okay, now we will move forward with creating, how to create a virtual environment in. So I have a Mac, I'll explain you on Mac, and I will share you a text file which has the installation process for your normal files as well. Okay, for like Windows, Ubuntu, and other type of systems. Now to create virtual environment, there are two methods. Okay, one is the traditional method which we'll be using, and one is like advanced. I will say in most of the modern scenarios we use them. So I'll be discussing both of the method. The first is called Venv method. Okay, and the second is called Pipenv. Okay, Pipenv. So if you have to understand like how Pipenv works, for example, let us say you can simply go to Pipenv installation. Okay, and you have this particular description how to install in detail. So it will explain you how to install on Mac or how to install on your system or your Windows. Okay, so first of all, let's create through Venv method. So what we have to do, we will create the, let's discuss the steps. The steps are, first of all, we need to create a project folder, correct? So we'll create a project folder wherever we are going to write down our codes. So we'll create that project folder. Okay, and then inside that we will create this virtual environment, and then we will install some library. Okay, so we'll be doing these three things. So let's do one thing. So first of all, let's go to VS Code. So we will open VS Code, and in VS Code we can go to terminal. Okay, so in terminal, see now right now I'm present at my normal directory. So let's say I do simple installation, pip install langchain. So it will say not found. Let's say I do pip 3 install langchain. Langchain is a library. Okay, it will not install, it will throw me error because some internal issue, because I have langchain earlier installed as well. That's why this issue keeps on popping up. So what we will do here, first of all, we'll create a working folder. So let's do one thing. So we come here, first of all we have to go to desktop. So we will use cd. Cd means change directory. Okay, and I have to go to my desktop. So I'll do users, my system name, desktop. Okay, so first of all I'll come here. Now right now my particular line, this line is present at my desktop. I have to create a new folder. So I'll say mkdir make directory. It will create a new folder in my desktop. Okay, and I will name that particular folder as, let's say, project A virtual environment. Okay, VENV. So I will name it this particular way. Okay, so now I am present inside my so I have created this particular folder, and now I have to go inside this particular folder. So how do I go? So I'll use cd and project A underscore venv. Okay, so now it shows that I am inside my project A venv folder. Okay, so what did we do here? Let's come back here. So first of all, we created a folder. So we created a folder, and now we go into that particular directory. So by cd and providing the location, you can actually move here and there in your system. So cd, and you'll give the name of this folder, so your system will come into this particular location. Now I want to install my virtual environment in this particular folder through venv method. So what I will be doing here is, let me just open it. So now to install this particular thing, first of all we will be using Python 3. Okay, because my system has Python 3. Then you will give m. Okay, and venv, and let's name that particular environment name as environment A. Okay, so we have created a virtual environment with name env, environment A, which is present in project A. So how did we create that? We created this particular line project. You need to write Python 3 uh, this hyphen m venv. Okay, and you need to give the name to that particular environment. Okay, so now once you create an environment, you need to activate it. Okay, so how do you activate in any particular so this is how you do in Mac. You'll use source. Okay, and after source you will take the environment name. So here its name is env A, and then you will say bin slash activate. Okay, now once you do that, you will see that env A is coming here. It means that I am inside the virtual environment of my folder project A environment. And now if I do pip install langchain, it will install. Okay, because now I'm present in a virtual environment, it is not impacting anything else. Okay, so I hope this particular step is clear, how to install a particular virtual environment. So what was the step in the venv method? So let me write it down. Venv method, the step 1 is you go to location wherever you want to create. So it can be any place. So how do you go to location? You can use cd and then you provide the location name. Okay, and to create a new folder you can use mkdir, means make directory. Okay, once you do this, and after this, once you have created the folder, once you are inside that, you have to use basically you have to write down that I want to create a virtual environment. So you'll write down Python 3 and then you will give hash m venv means virtual environment, and after this you have to give the name of the virtual environment. This is up to you, you can name it anything. Once you have given this name, okay, the last step is to activate. So in MacBook, how you do source. Okay, then you take this name, whatever your name is. Okay, and after that you do bin and then you do activate. That's how you activate a particular virtual environment. And now let us say you want to come out of the virtual environment. Okay, so I mean you did your work, for example, you created everything and now you want to come out. So you'll simply write down deactivate. So what we will do, we'll go to my folder here and simply deactivate. So remember, when I write deactivate, you will see that this env, this will disappear. Now we have come out of it. Now we are present in my normal directory. Okay, so I hope this particular part is clear, that how we created a virtual environment and how we closed a virtual environment using venv method. Now let us create a virtual environment using the other method, that is pipenv. So for pipenv, what we will do, let me go to this particular thing. So I will restart it. So we have to use the pipenv. So pipenv is a little bit modern method. It's very easy. I mean, even the previous one was not that difficult. Pipenv shell, right, which I just showed you. If you go to this particular documentation, okay, so it's very simple. So if you are depending upon what you are using, you have to install. For example, if you are using MacBook, so what you do, brew, or you do brew install pipenv. Okay, so once you write down this brew install pipenv, it will start downloading. It will start downloading your any particular directory. So now your pipenv is installed. Now once your pipenv is installed, so let me just, okay, so once your pipenv method is installed, what you will do, you can upgrade it as well if you want. For example, brew upgrade pipenv. Okay, so the latest version is already installed. Now what I have to do, I have to simply go to my project. So for example, let's say I create a new folder. So let me first clear it. Now let me go to desktop. So I will do cd users, my system name, and desktop. Okay, let's say I go to my desktop and I create a new folder, make directory, and let's say virtual environment, make directory project b underscore virtual environment. Okay, so this is my project, and now I have to get inside it. So what I will do, cd, so I will simply write down this. Okay, and then I will write down project b underscore venv. Okay, so now I am inside this particular folder. So now what I need to do, I simply need to do pipenv shell. So once I will do that, it will create a virtual environment. So pipenv shell. So what will happen, it will create a virtual environment in my system. Okay, in present here. So my this particular environment with name of this particular name is created, and now I can install. So now if I have to install anything, I will have to use pipenv install langchain. Okay, this will install langchain throughout my system. Okay, and remember, this particular thing is installed in my, not in my folder, it is created in my directory, in my home directory. So that's how it creates the virtual environment. So I hope this particular method is clear to you guys as well. So we discussed two methods. So what you do in pipenv method, it's very simple. You first of all brew install pipenv. Okay, you go to this website that I just shared. Okay, and then you just simply write down pipenv shell, and it will automatically create a virtual environment for you. So this is how you will do through pipenv. You can, by default, let's go with the first step, the first method that I told you. It is way more clear, and you can easily create in any folder that you want. Okay, but you can use pipenv as well. So this was the explanation on how to create virtual environment using the two methods I did on Mac. I'll share a file with this video where you will get to know how to install using in Windows as well. So I hope this particular explanation is clear. If you still don't understand, do let me know, do text me, right? Or you can comment below the video. I will try to give you a proper understanding, but I will attach a proper documentation with this video. You can visit that, and it will be easy for you. So thanks for watching with this video, and I will see you in the next video.